My best friend was on a business trip, and her 4-year-old daughter was left to me with just one phone call. Looking at the quiet little girl in front of me, holding a book of Human Anatomy Atlas and chewing small bean sprouts with relish, I fell into deep thought. Who does this baby follow? My bestie can't give birth to this breed. I was also free, so I took a picture of her side face while she was reading a book seriously and captioned it, Fu Yao, can I transfer the ownership of this kid directly to my name? And posted it on WeChat Moments. A minute later, the phone exploded. In the third comment area, an old man I haven't contacted in 5 years only wrote one sentence. Girl Jean, the line of this child's mandible is the same as that of your Su family. Are you sure this is not the blood of the Su family? I didn't have time to reply. The call came. The caller on the screen, Huo Yanci. 5 years. The first words he spoke were not greetings, but orders. The child in the photo, where is she? Chapter 1. Fu Yao's call came suddenly. At 8 o'clock on Friday night, as soon as I opened a box of Malatang, her crying voice came through the receiver. Jean, help me. I have to fly to Shenzhen on a business trip. Shen Tua is also out of town, and there's no one to take Lulu with me. My mother's waist is sprained. It's really... Okay. I picked up a piece of lunch meat. Send it over. Jean, you are my sister? After hanging up the phone, I took out the spare quilt from the cabinet and spread it on the bed in the second bedroom. 40 minutes later, Fu Yao appeared at the door of her house wearing high heels, dragging a small pink suitcase behind him. There was a little girl standing next to the suitcase. Dear. I've seen her several times in Fu Yao's circle of friends, but the gap between the photo and the real person is ridiculously big. My chopsticks paused in midair. Glowing white skin, thick black eyelashes. The bridge of his nose was straight, his mouth was slightly pursed, and his eyes were dark and deep. He stood quietly at the door, neither making any noise nor making a fuss, holding a book in his arms. The cover of that book is all too familiar to me. Atlas of Human Anatomy, 7th edition. I was stunned for 3 full seconds. Yao. Your daughter is reading an anatomy book? Fu Yao waved her hand nonchalantly. Don't mention it. I don't know where I found it. I have to hold it and read it. I told her she wouldn't even want another copy of Peppa Pig. I squatted down and looked at Lulu. She looked up at me too. At that moment, my heart skipped a beat. I can't explain why, but this 4-year-old child looked at me with a kind of unwarranted closeness. Not the politeness of a child toward strangers, but a natural and instinctive trust. What worries me more is... there is a small mole at the corner of her mouth. Left. Exactly the same position as me. All right, Jean, I'm leaving first. The plane isn't waiting for you. Fu Yao kissed Lulu passionately on the face. Lulu, listen to Aunt Sue. Lulu hummed. Not even crying. For a 4-year-old child, when her mother was about to leave, she just said calmly, be safe on the road. Fu Yao's back disappeared into the corridor. I closed the door and looked down at the little girl. Is this child born to Fu Yao? Seriously? I carried Lulu into the house. The little girl was frighteningly light. After sitting on the sofa, her short legs swayed. She opened the anatomy atlas and found the chapter on the human skeletal system, which she read with great interest. Lulu, do you understand? She didn't even raise her head. You should understand better. This is the tibia and this is the fibula. Aunt Sue, how many bones does a human have? 206 yuan. That's not entirely true. She raised her head and looked at me seriously. A baby has about 300 yuan, which will be combined when he grows up. 206 is the average for adults. My hands holding the mala tang trembled slightly. For years old. Fu Yao scored 47 points on the full score paper of Mathematics 150 in the college entrance examination. Not to mention Shen Tua, who graduated from college and worked as an administrator in a small company. He even had to find a template to copy his work report. How did these 2 people give birth to a 4-year-old child who could correct my knowledge of anatomy? Genetic mutation? The more I looked at Lulu, the more I felt something was wrong. Her facial features were exquisite to a fault. That quiet energy, that calmness that far exceeds his age. It has nothing to do with Fu Yao or Chin Tua. Instead, a bit like someone I can't remember. Simply don't think about it anymore. Lulu was engrossed in reading, her little head tilted slightly. The light from the balcony fell on the side of her face, and her eyelashes cast a small shadow. So pretty, this picture. I took out my cell phone out of nowhere. Click. I took this profile picture. The little girl in the photo is quiet and focused, with her little finger pressed on the illustration of skull, as serious as a little scholar. Open moments, select the picture, and type the next line. Fu Yao, can I transfer this property directly to my name? Send. Then I continued eating malatang. 1 minute later, the phone started vibrating. 1 piece, 2 items, 5, 10 items. I clicked on the comment section and almost choked to death on the lotus root slices. The first one, college roommate. Whose kid is this? He's so good looking, isn't he? The second article, colleague on. Is this your best friend's daughter? You 2 look too much alike. Are you sure she's not your biological child? I was about to reply with a smile when my eyes glanced at the third item. The fingers froze. The commentator's name, Zhou Mengliang. The top orthopedic authority in the country, and a close friend of my grandfather, Su Huayan. I called him Grandpa Zhou since I was a child. After I cut off contact with the Su family 5 years ago, I never said a word to him again. But I forgot to delete him as a friend. His comment was only 1 sentence. Jean Yatu, this child's mandibular line is in the same vein as your Su family. Are you sure this is not the blood of the Su family? Mandible. My heart tightened suddenly. Turning to look at Lulu. Her chin. I subconsciously touched my chin. Exactly the same. A sore, sharp, indescribable feeling shot up from his stomach. The phone vibrated again. Not a comment. It's an incoming call. 3 words on the screen. Huo Yanci. My breath caught. 5 years. This name I thought would never appear on my phone screen again in this life. The phone vibrated 3 times in my hand. Look around. 5 times. Lulu raised her head and glanced at me. Aunt Sue, your phone is ringing. I took a deep breath. Answered. There was silence on the other side for 2 seconds. Then a low voice that I was once very familiar with. The child in the photo. Where is she? Not a question. It's a command. Chapter 2. My hand tightened on the phone. Huo Yanci, you are very diligent in scrolling through other people's moments. Address. He said only one word. You. Su Jin. He rarely calls me by my full name. Every time my full name is called, it means that I am not being discussed. Send me the address. I'll be here in 20 minutes. Beep. Hang up. I stared at the blackened screen of my phone for a long time. Lulu tilted her head and looked at me. Aunt Sue, do you know someone? That's right. Put down the phone. The heartbeat is abnormally fast. Huo Yanci. 5 years ago, he was the deepest hole in my life. We were together for 2 years, and they were the best 2 years of my life. Then I got pregnant. When she was 7 months old, she was unexpectedly born prematurely, and the baby was pushed into an incubator. I was lying on the operating table covered in blood. When he woke up again, Fu Yao was the only one beside him. She sat beside my bed with red eyes and held my hand. Jin, the child can't be saved. The memory of that day is still hazy to this day. I just remember crying on the hospital bed until I lost all strength and my whole body was hollowed out. And Huo Yanci. He was abroad on urgent matters. When I got back, it was all over. I looked into his eyes and couldn't say a word. And later, I broke up with the Su family. Break up with Huo Yanci. A man moved to the city and started from scratch. That was my darkest half year. I got over it slowly. Hide yourself in freelance work and drawings. See no one. Don't socialize. Don't look back. Until Fu Yao reappeared in my life, taking her and Chen Tuo's daughter with her reassembling her daily life. I thought everything was over. I lowered my head and glanced at Lulu, who was flipping through a book. Think of Grandpa Zhou's comment again. I share the same blood with your Su family. There is an idea in my heart that is trying to push out, but I dare not touch it. Don't dare. 22 minutes later, the doorbell rang. I took a deep breath and opened the door. The man outside the door was wearing a dark gray coat with the collar buttons neatly buttoned. We haven't seen each other for 5 years. He has lost some weight and his jawline has become much sharper. However, the eyes under his eyebrows have not changed at all. Deep, cold, and with a sense of oppression that makes people breathless. The moment he saw me, his pupils shrank slightly. But only for a moment. Then his eyes crossed my shoulder and locked on the small figure on the sofa in the living room. Lulu just raised his head. The two people looked at each other from a distance of 7 or 8 meters. Huo Yanci's body. I can see clearly. Stiff. The knuckles of his hand holding the phone tightened one by one and turned white. Su Jin. His voice suddenly became very soft. This child's eyes. He didn't finish. But I get it. Because Lulu's eyes, dark and deep, eyes slightly raised at the end. Just like him. I had been wondering who Lulu looked like. The answer stood before me. Lulu slid off the sofa, holding her anatomy book and walking over in small slippers. He raised his head and looked at Huo Yanci for a few seconds. Hello, she said. Are you Aunt Sue's friend? Huo Yanci didn't answer. He slowly squatted down and looked at Lulu at eye level. I saw his Adam's apple rolling heavily. He stretched out his hand, his fingers trembling slightly, and stopped next to Lulu's cheek, not touched. May I have your name? Dear. How old are you? 4.5 years old. 4.5 years old. If my child were alive, he would be 4.5 years old this year. The living room was quiet for 3 seconds. Huo Yanci stood up and turned to me. His expression is still that cold and controlling one, but I've been with him for 2 years and I know he's biting his back molars. He only bites his back molars when he is extremely restrained. I need a hair from this kid, he said. The sound is smooth, but the hand in his sleeve was shaking. I pulled him to the balcony and lowered my voice. Are you crazy? This is Fu Yao's daughter. What do you want with her hair? He stared at me. Those eyes were frighteningly dark. Su Jin, can't you see? What did you say? Her eyes are mine, he said word by word. Her chin is yours. She has a mole at the corner of her mouth, the left side, exactly where you are. My breath caught. 4.5 years old, he added. March 2020. My nails dug into my palms. March 2020. My child. The child who was told not saved. The due date is March 17th, 2020. No way. I heard myself say. The voice was dry and wavy. My child is dead. Who told you? Fu. My voice broke. Fu Yao. Fu Yao told me. When I woke up, Fu Yao was the only one beside me. Where is the doctor? I didn't see the doctor. There was only Fu Yao's red eyes and her hand that squeezed me tightly. In 5 years, I never questioned it. Because that's my best friend. The most trusted person. Who am I to question her? But now, there is a 4.5-year-old girl sitting on the sofa in the living room. She has my face and his eyes. She can read anatomy textbooks and know that babies have 300 bones. She has a mole in the same position as me at the corner of her mouth. Huo Yanci looked at my expression and said nothing. He took his cell phone out of his pocket and dialed a number. Zhengdong. Contact the nearest identification center in the west of the city. The results will be out tonight. Hang up the phone and look at me. Su Jin. If this child is ours. A crack finally appeared in his voice. I will leave no one behind who has touched her. Chapter 3. Lulu fell asleep. After taking a shower, I changed into pajamas and lay on the small bed, still holding the anatomy book in my hand. I helped her take out the book and put it on the bedside. She turned over and muttered, "Aunt Sue, good night." The quilt was pulled up. When his fingers touched her forehead, soft and warm, a sourness surged up from her chest. I could barely hold it back, but held back. After walking out of the room, Huo Yanci leaned against the corridor wall, holding a transparent sealed bag in his hand. There was a tiny strand of hair inside. "She dropped it just now when she was sitting on the sofa," he said. I nodded. "You go back. I won't leave until the results come out. You." "Su Jin." He looked at me. I couldn't come back in time for what happened 5 years ago. It won't happen this time. I opened my mouth, but finally said nothing. He stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling window in the living room and made phone calls all night long. Chengdong took away the sealed bag half an hour later. I sat motionless on the kitchen stool, staring at the clock on the wall. The second hand jumped one by one. Every beat hits my heart. 3:17 in the morning. Huo Yanci's cell phone rang. My heart stopped for a beat. He picked up. I couldn't hear clearly what was said on the other side, but I saw the knuckles of the hand he was holding the phone turned white for an instant. He hung up the phone. Turn around. Look at me. That expression. I have never seen Huo Yanci's expression in my life. He was called the living king of hell in the shopping mall. No one has seen him lose his composure. No one has seen him panic. He will always be the person who sits at the top of a long table and can decide the life or death of a company with 2 fingers. But at this moment, his eyes were red. How much? I heard my own voice. 99.99, he said. For words. Every word accurately shattered all my 5 years of knowledge. 99.99. The child who was told not saved. The child who made me cry unconscious in my hospital bed. The child who caused me to break up with the Su family, break up with Huo Yanci, and silently collapse countless times alone in the middle of the night. She is not dead. She lives. She slept in the room next to mine. Her little hands were holding the corner of the quilt, and there was a small mole like mine on the corner of her mouth. 4.5 years old. Can read anatomy books. Know that a baby has 300 bones that slowly merge into 206. She lives. And the person who stole her. She is my best friend. Fu Yao. His nails dug into his palms. 1 time, 2 times, 3 times. Pain. But it was nothing compared to the suffocation in my chest that had been hollowed out for 5 years and then suddenly stuffed back. Su Jin. Huo Yanci's voice came from above his head. I looked up. He walked up to me. The eye sockets are still red, but what is surging in the pupils is not sadness. It's murderous intent. It was a naked murderous intention that I had never seen in all the time I had known him. Are you done crying? He asked. Only then did I realize that my face was wet. I don't know when it started flowing. He stretched out his hand and wiped it hard, causing his skin to turn red. Didn't cry. I'm thinking. What are you thinking about? Stand up. My legs were a little weak, but I stood firm. How do you want Fu Yao to pay off the debts of the past 5 years one by one? At 7 o'clock in the morning, Lulu woke up. Error 500, server error. 1500, that's an error. There was an error. Please try again later. That's all we know. Good-looking uncle. You didn't leave last night? Huo Yanci's Adam's apple moved. Without. Then have you had breakfast? No. Lulu sighed as a little adult, ran to me on her little slippers, and tugged at the corner of my clothes. Aunt Sue, can you make breakfast for Uncle too? He looks like he hasn't slept all night. My nose felt sore. This kid. Kind, considerate, and attentive. After 4 years of growing up in a family like Fu Yao and Chintua, he still looks like this. Innate. Just like my mother. I rubbed Lulu's head. Okay, Auntie, we'll fry eggs for you. During breakfast, Lulu sat in front of the dining table. His legs were too short to reach the ground, and he was shaking. After taking 2 bites of eggs, I suddenly looked up. Aunt Sue. That birthmark on your wrist is so beautiful. I lower my head. On the inside of my right wrist, there is a small light brown birthmark with an irregular shape that I have had since I was a child. Lulu put down the spoon and stretched out his left wrist. There are deer too. Inside. Light palm color. The shape, the position almost mirror symmetry. Tears welled up without warning. I blinked hard twice, lowered my head, and pretended to drink porridge. Huo Yanci opposite him clenched his chopsticks tightly, his knuckles turning white. Lulu looked at me, then at him, and tilted his head. Aunt Sue, what's wrong with you? Good-looking uncle. What's wrong with you too? Fine. Huo Yanci and I spoke at the same time. Lulu nodded doubtfully and continued to eat the eggs. After eating, she went to brush her teeth obediently. Taking advantage of the sound of water rushing, Huo Yanci leaned over and lowered his voice. What to do now? I put down the porridge bowl. Fu Yao will come back the day after tomorrow. I need these 2 days to find out how she did it. The hospital delivery records, the child's birth certificate, the timeline of her pregnancy, all of it. I'll let Chengdong check it out. Not enough. I looked at him. We also need the shift records of the obstetrics and gynecology department of that hospital. Fu Yao can't do this alone. She must have helpers. Huo Yanci looked at me for a few seconds. You have changed, he said. What? You used to hide after crying. There is nothing to cry about now. I picked up the bowl and washed it. I hid 5 years ago and gave her 5 years to raise my daughter and let my daughter call her mother. Turn on the faucet. The sound of running water covered the trembling in my next sentence. There won't be a second time. Chapter 4. Chengdong's efficiency is frighteningly high. At noon the next day, a complete investigation report was placed on my coffee table. Huo Yanci sat opposite me. Lulu was taking a nap in the room. Open the report. The first page, Fu Yao's prenatal checkup record. In 2019, Fu Yao registered at the Second Maternal and Child Health Hospital in Qingnan. Regular prenatal checkups will begin in November. Everything works fine. But Chengdong circled a line of words in red pen. All ultrasound single image archives from November 2019 to January 2020 were lost. Lost. 3 months of ultrasound images were collectively lost. Turn to page 2. A record of separation. On March 20th, 2020, the third day after my premature birth, Zhou Guilan, a nurse in the obstetrics and gynecology department of Chengnan Second Maternal and Child Health Hospital, voluntarily resigned. The reason for resignation was written as personal physical reasons. Attached is a screenshot of bank statements. March 19th, 2020. Zhou Guilan's account received a transfer. 150,000. Transfer person, Fu Yao. I stared at the string of numbers for a long time. 150,000. She bought my child with 150,000 yuan. Bought my flesh and blood. Bought 5 years of my tears and nightmares. 150,000. Hands shaking. The report is not finished yet. Page 3, Lulu's birth certificate. Date of birth, March 17th, 2020. Mother, Fu Yao. Father, Zhen Tua. Birth hospital, Chengnan Second Maternal and Child Health Hospital. March 17th, 2020. My due date. My baby was born prematurely on March 15th and was pushed into an incubator. 2 days later, Fu Yao applied for the child's birth certificate using her and Zhen Tua's names. Slowly closed the report. Where is Zhou Guilan? Found it. Huo Yanci said, a small clinic has been opened in the northern suburbs of the city. Chengdong has passed by. Will she speak? Yes. His tone was so calm that there was no room for negotiation. Chengdong brought a lawyer. When she participated in forging birth certificates, this was not help. It was a crime. Either confess on your own initiative or wait for the police to come. I nodded. 4 p.m., Chengdong sent a recording. Zhou Guilan's voice, trembling with a cry. Fu Yao came to me. She said that Su Jin's child would not live long after being born prematurely, so it was better to give the child a better home. She gave me 150,000. I gave her the child in the incubator. Before Su Jin woke up, we used a stillborn baby to replace. Replaced my living daughter with a dead baby. Then he sat beside my hospital bed and told me with red eyes, the child was not saved. The recording continues. Fu Yao said, she said she was doing it for Su Jin's own good. Su Jin was still young and could have children in the future. She said she couldn't have children herself, and if this child followed her, Su Jin could let go. For my own good. Infertile. I close my eyes. The images in my mind are swirling. 5 years ago. Operating table. Disinfectant water smell. Abdominal tearing pain. I woke up from the anesthesia, covered in cold sweat, and the first thing I said was, Dash, where's my child? Fu Yao sat beside the bed and held my hand. The eyes are red. The tone was heartbreaking and helpless. Jin, I'm sorry, the child was not saved. I cried in her arms all night. She kept patting me on the back, shooting and coaxing at the same time. And my daughter was at her home at that time. Alive. Healthy. Waiting for a stolen mother to name her. Dear. She even used the word dear. Su brocade. Dear roar in the wild. Is it a mockery of me, or some twisted commemoration of her crimes? My teeth were clenched, and the muscles on both sides of my cheeks were sore. Hatred. Hate seeping out from the bones. Not rage. Rage is too shallow. It was a cold, precise hatred that had already designed the hell for her every day in the future in her mind. Huo Yanci kept looking at me. After all my emotions were pushed back under the ice, he spoke. She'll be back the day after tomorrow. A head-on showdown? No. I raised my head. I want her to walk in on her own. Walking into a road she thought was covered with flowers, only to find out at the end that it was her grave. The corners of Huo Yanci's mouth moved. Not really a laugh, but there is recognition in that arc. Tell me your plan. Isn't Huo's having a charity dinner next Saturday? He glanced at me. You have to use that field. All the media, celebrities, and aristocratic families in the city are here. My voice was very soft and steady. I want Fu Yao to uncover her skin with her own hands in front of everyone. She won't come. She will. I smiled. Just tell her that there's a top child education expert at that dinner who can evaluate Lulu's talents. She will definitely come. Why? Because she is never sure whether she can keep the things she stole. She needs to constantly prove to the outside world that Lulu is her greatest pride. Only in this way can she convince herself that what she did back then was not wrong. Huo Yanci stared at me for 3 seconds. Su Jin. You have indeed changed. Lulu ran out of the room, sleepy-eyed, still holding the anatomy book in his hand. And Sue, I had a dream. What did you dream about? I dreamed that I had a mother who looked just like you. She rubbed her eyes. She has been looking for me. I squatted down. Take her into your arms. Use force. Push harder. Her little body pressed against my heart. Warm, light, real. Auntie is here. The voice was muffled and buried in her hair. Always there. Chapter 5. Fu Yao came back to pick up the child on Monday afternoon. I bought a new big-name windbreaker, stepped on high heels, and rang my doorbell with a smile. Jin. I'm back. Is Lulu good? Do you miss your mother? When I opened the door, I had a standard bestie smile on my face. The kind where 38 facial muscles work simultaneously. I'm painting in the living room. Very well behaved. Fu Yao rushed in, squatted down, hugged Lulu, and kissed her several times. Baby, Mom is back. Do you miss Mom? Lulu obediently was kissed twice by her and then said, Mom, I have learned a lot from Aunt Sue these days. Really? What did you learn? Aunt Sue taught me how to read an electrocardiogram. Fu Yao's smile froze for a moment. Looking back at me, her tone was still sweet. Jin, why are you teaching her this? She is only 4 years old. She's interested. I handed him a glass of water. Don't you always say that this child is smart, and it's up to you? Oh, yes. Fu Yao answered immediately and raised her eyebrows. This girl has been different since she was a child. The kindergarten teacher said she was a genius and suggested that she be sent to a school for gifted children. But the tuition is too expensive and Chin Tuo salary. She sighed and naturally brought the topic to money. Same old routine. Every time I mention genius daughter, the next sentence will inevitably imply that it is not easy for me. In the past, I would take the initiative and say, if you need help, tell me. Now I just smile and listen. By the way, Jin. Fu Yao sat on the sofa and crossed her legs. There are a lot of likes on that photo in your circle of friends. Lulu is indeed photogenic. Maybe she can make money as a child model in the future. Yeah, a lot of people commented. Some people say she looks like you, which makes me laugh. She waved her hands and giggled. You and Lulu are not related by blood. How can they be similar? Yes. I smiled. How can it be like that? Fu Yao didn't hear the weight of the sentence. She lowered her head to scroll through her phone, then suddenly looked up. Hey, what's the name of the person in your comment? Su and what's the Su family blood? Didn't you say you lost contact with your family? Why are you still in your circle of friends? My heart tightened. Forgot to delete it. Oh, then delete it quickly. She said casually, save your grandpa and the others from bothering you again. They forced you to do it in the first place, saying that the direct descendants of the Su family must go back to study medicine, and if they don't study, they will break off the relationship. In what age are you still doing this dash? Indignant. Fight the injustice for me. What a wonderful bestie. I looked at her face. It was the same face 5 years ago, when I cried in front of my hospital bed and said, the child is gone. 5 years ago, it was the same mouth that reassured me that everything will be fine. 5 years ago, these same hands took my daughter away from the incubator. My stomach is churning, but I smiled steadily. There are too many things Fu Yao doesn't know. She didn't know that after I left the Su family, I published 7 papers in international medical journals under the pseudonym Mr. Jin. She didn't know that the family doctor of the European royal family had regular video consultations with Mr. Jin every month. She didn't know who the smart and easygoing genius daughter she had been showing off for 4.5 years was. She knows nothing. This is exactly what I need. By the way, Yao. I changed the subject. Host has a charity dinner next Saturday, and I got 2 invitations. Fu Yao's eyes lit up instantly. Her family? Jin, you are quite wild. How did you get it? It was given by a friend. I said, the key is that at the dinner there was a child education expert who came back from the UK. It is said that he specializes in talent assessment. Haven't you always wanted to do it for Lulu? Really? She grabbed my arm and dug her nails into my skin. Then I will definitely go. Jin, you're so interesting. When and where were you? Park Hyatt Hotel. Next Saturday at 7 o'clock. I'll go. Take Lulu. Fish. Bite the hook. I watched her happily take out her mobile phone and search for Park Hyatt Hotel dinner outfits, and the nausea surged in my stomach. But I just leaned back on the couch and took a sip of water. The water is cold. My heart is cold. My mind has never been so clear. Fu Yao held Lulu's hand when she left. Lulu looked back at me at the door. Those eyes, her father's eyes, looked at me quietly. His mouth moved, but no words came out. I waved to her. Goodbye, Lulu. Goodbye, Aunt Sue. The door is closed. Error 500, server error. 1500, that's an error. There was an error. Please try again later. That's all we know. Hands shaking. My whole hand was shaking. I endured it all afternoon. From the time she walked in to the time she left, she laughed for a full 2 hours. His face was almost frozen. The phone vibrated. News about Huo Yanci. She's gone. 2 replies. Gone. Next Saturday. Catch them all. Throw your phone on the table and walk into the bathroom. Turn on the faucet. Cold water was poured down his face. Again. Twice. 3 times. He raised his head and saw that the person in the mirror was no longer the Su Jin who cried until he lost strength in the hospital bed 5 years ago. Chapter 6. In the next 5 days, Chengdong was incredibly efficient. Tuesday. He obtained a complete copy of the surveillance of Chang'an's second maternal and child health hospital in March 2020. The backup is stored on the hospital's external server. Fu Yao had deleted the original archive in the hospital, but she didn't expect that there was an off-site backup. Wednesday. Zhou Guilan signed written testimony in front of the lawyer and took his fingerprints. At the end of her testimony, she wrote, Su Jin's child cried when he was taken away. The cry was very loud. I will never forget that voice in my life. I saved the 150,000 yuan for 5 years and didn't touch a penny. I don't deserve to touch it. Thursday. Huo Yanci's legal team completed the notarization of all evidence. DNA identification report, surveillance video, bank transfer records, birth certificate forgery comparison, nurse testimony. Each one is a chain. Each one only locks one person. Fu Yao. Friday afternoon. I went to the Su family's old house. Haven't been back for 5 years. The sycamore tree at the door is much taller again. Su Huiyan, my grandfather, was waiting for me at the door. The 82-year-old man's back is still straight. His silver hair was meticulously combed back, and he held a sandalwood crutch in his hand. I stood 3 steps away. Grandfather. He looked at me. There was a moment of confusion in his cloudy old eyes. In the past 5 years, his granddaughter has lost a lot of weight. Back, he said. No questioning, no scolding. Just 2 words. He probably didn't notice the tremor in his voice, but I heard it. Sitting in the study, I told the story from beginning to end. After Su Huiyan heard this, his crutch paused heavily on the ground. Fu Yao. When he read out the name, his teeth were clenched. I asked you to make this friend back then. It has nothing to do with you. I said, I just trusted the wrong person. Where is the child? His tone suddenly softened. Lulu, is she okay? Very good. His eyes were a little sore. Smart, sensible, and can read anatomy books at the age of 4.5. Su Huiyan leaned on a crutch and was silent for a long time. He is from the Su family, he finally said. Then he looked up at me and said, what do you need? Tomorrow's dinner. I need to attend as the Su family. Good. I still need you to hire someone for me. Who? Uncle Liao. Su Huiyan's eyebrows moved. Liao Guodong, domestic leader in child psychology. Su Huiyan's best friend. If there was a child education expert who returned from the UK at the dinner party, a play would be performed on the spot. Lulu's talent assessment is real, but the content of assessment goes beyond talent and academic endorsement of paternity testing. You girl. Su Huiyan stood up on crutches. Follow your mother. She looks gentle, but she can be more ruthless than anyone else. You can't do it without being ruthless. Okay. He walked toward the house. Come in and have dinner. You've lost weight. I followed him. 5 years. The threshold has not changed. The light on the porch remained unchanged. The smell of old fire soup wafting out of the kitchen has not changed. It's me who has changed. The Su Jin who walked out of this door 5 years ago was a heartbroken person who had lost her child. Su Jin walked back today, evidence in hand, plan in mind, not a single extra tear in her eyes. After dinner, Huo Yanci sent the final process of the dinner. 1900 hours guest center, 1930 opening remarks, 2000 hours charity auction, 2030 children's education expert dialogue session. Liao Guodong takes the stage. 2045 special session. Special session. For words. That was reserved for Fu Yao. I replied, has the surveillance video editing been finished? It's over. 7 minutes. From the time she entered the incubator room, to taking the baby away, to handing the money to the nurse. There was no dead end in the whole process. 7 minutes. The whole process of my daughter being stolen was condensed into 7 minutes of video. The phone vibrated again. Su Jin. What will you wear tomorrow? I was stunned for a moment. When had this man ever cared about dressing? I had someone send a piece of clothing to the concierge of Su Jin. It's white. You look good in white. I stared at this message for a long time. White. On the day I gave birth to my child 5 years ago, I was also wearing white, a white hospital gown, with half of the skirt soaked in blood. Tomorrow, I'm going to wear white. Return that blood-stained memory to the person it belongs to. I replied, thank you. You're welcome. 3 seconds later, another one. Su Jin. After tomorrow, Lulu will not call anyone else's mother again. Put down the phone. The tips of my fingers are a little numb. The sycamore leaves rustled outside the window. Tomorrow. Chapter 7. Park Hyatt Hotel, 53rd floor, Crystal Ballroom. The top social venue in the city. I arrived at 6:30 in the evening. White couture dress. An ancestral jade earring from the Su family. Her hair was tied into a simple bun. The person in the mirror looks clean, calm, and calm. No one could tell from this face how much things were going on in her heart. At 7 o'clock sharp, guests entered the venue one after another. The entire banquet hall was filled to the brim with more than 300 people, including upstarts from the business world, old money from aristocratic families, media tycoons, and medical authorities. I stood in the corner with a glass of sparkling water. 7:15. Fu Yao was here. A bright red dress, heavy makeup, and a smile on her face. She walked in holding Lulu. Lulu wore a small goose yellow skirt and tied her hair into 2 buns, and followed her obediently. Fu Yao started looking around as soon as he entered the scene. His eyes were full of excitement and overwhelming ambition. She didn't recognize anyone present, but she needs to pretend she belongs here. I saw her taking Lulu and taking the initiative to talk to a lady. The other party smiled politely, turned around, and left. Fu Yao's smile froze for a moment. Recovery soon. Jin. She saw me and trotted over with Lulu. Oh my god, you look so good today. Where did you buy this skirt? A gift from a friend. That's great. She looked me up and down and sighed. With your conditions, why can't you find a rich man to marry? What a pity. I curled my lips. No rush. Lulu pulled my hand. Aunt Sue. She looked up at me and whispered, you are so beautiful today. I touched her head. The same to you. 7:30. Opening remarks. Huo Yanci came on stage. The whole place fell silent. Wearing a black suit, he stood in the brightest position with his thin lips slightly pursed, and his eyes calmly scanned the more than 300 faces in the audience. That kind of aura, the entire air of the banquet hall was held in his hands. Thank you for attending Huo's annual charity dinner. His voice was low, but every word fell clearly in every corner of the hall. This year's theme is protection. There was a pause. Protect those who cannot protect themselves. Protect the children who have been forcibly taken from their loved ones. Some people in the audience whispered, thinking it was just a regular opening statement on a charity theme. Fu Yao clapped beside me and leaned into my ear. This man is so handsome. Huo Yanci, is he the president of Huo's company? Jin, have you ever been with him before? Stop talking, I said, in the stands. At 8 o'clock, the charity auction was carried out smoothly. Fu Yao's eyes shone brightly as she watched, and she was astonished by the lots that cost hundreds of thousands or even millions. The world of rich people is really different. Lulu sat quietly on a chair, flipping through a small picture album. 8:30. The host said, next, I would like to invite the domestic authority on child psychology, Professor Liao Guodong, to bring you a special dialogue session. Fu Yao bounced up. Here he is. It's this expert. Jin, you're talking about him, right? Right. She adjusted her hair excitedly and pulled up Lulu. Lulu, Mom will take you up to show the professor, you know? You are the best. Mom's genius baby. Liao Guodong took the stage. An old man in his 70s, with gray hair, gold-rimmed glasses, and a gentle temperament. After a brief academic sharing, he smiled and said, "Tonight, I heard that there's a very special child here." Fu Yao immediately stood up holding Lulu. "Here, Professor Liao, this is my daughter." All eyes were on her. Fu Yao raised her chest and raised her head, her face full of pride. She led Lulu onto the stage. Liao Guodong looked at Lulu's face and narrowed his eyes slightly behind his glasses. I briefly exchanged a few words with Lulu. "What books do you like to read?" "Atlas of Human Anatomy and Huangdi Neijing." There was a commotion in the audience. "Do you know how many bones there are in the human body?" "It's about 300 yuan for an infant and 206 yuan for an adult." The commotion turned into murmurs of exclamation. Fu Yao was very proud and nodded repeatedly beside her. "Yes, yes, she has been like this since she was a child. She is very smart. Just follow me. When I was a child." "Madam." Liao Guodong interrupted her gently. "May I ask what your professional background is?" Fu Yao was stunned for a moment. "I studied marketing in college." "Did Lulu's interest in medicine come from his family's influence?" It should be maybe an 8? Someone in the audience laughed. Fu Yao's face turned slightly red, but she quickly adjusted. "Child, talent is something you are born with sometimes, right? Born." Liao Guodong repeated these 3 words. Then he lowered his head and looked into Lulu's eyes. "I watched it for a long time." Turning to the host, he nodded. The host picked up the microphone. "Next is the special part tonight." The big screen lights up. Fu Yao turned to look at the screen. She thought a promotional video about talent assessment would be played. The picture appears. Not a promotional video. It's a surveillance video. Timestamp, March 17th, 2020.